Okay, Dr. Mindy here, and I am starting my checklist series with you all. You guys have given us such great feedback about what information you need, and one of the things that we're seeing is that many of you have very specific conditions that you're trying to heal. So let me start off by just applauding you, because we do live in this amazing day and age where we can start to take our health into our own control, and we can apply things that we're learning on stations and channels like mine and other people. So what I want to do is help you put it into some type of system or some type of checklist. So today we're going to talk about sleep. I want to dive into what do you need to consider if you're not getting a good night's sleep. And what I'm going to do is go through 3 organs that you need to be focused on healing. I'm going to go through 7 different steps you can look at to heal these organs. And then I'll go through a list of my favorite supplements, and we'll even dive into some of my favorite tests. So you can take notes. I'm going to have my team put a checklist in the notes so that you have that available as well. But I really want you to go further with your thinking than you just need to change diet, or you just need to stop stressing, or you just need the magic pill, supplement, medication, whatever it is. I want to give you more structure and a better way to think about this. Okay? So let's dive in. Sleep. 3 organs that you've got to focus on. 1 is the brain. There are 3 parts of the brain that control sleep: your hypothalamus, your pituitary, and your pineal gland. These are 3 areas of the brain that are not protected by a blood-brain barrier. So they're the most susceptible to stress and to inflammation and to toxins. Second organ I want you to look at is your gut. Your gut, as I'll explain, produces a lot of the good bacteria in there will produce things like melatonin that help you sleep. And then the third organ I want you to look at is your adrenals, your HPA axis. So we'll dive into that with when your adrenals are off. It's rarely just an issue with adrenals. It's usually the whole axis that's off. So I'll talk about that. So let's start with the brain. There are 2 things I want you to think about with the brain. 1 is circulation of your brain, and the second is your brain too inflamed? Is the brain on fire? So let's start with circulation. If you're somebody who is living a high-stressed life and you're sitting all day, stress and sedentary living creates vasoconstriction of the brain and will have the brain in a hyperactive state. So my first recommendation to you is move. Make sure you're getting out and you're moving around, and make sure that you have good techniques or good protocols for handling stress. Learning to say no more, learning to slow your life down that alone, which is why I put it as number 1, could have this massive impact on your sleep. So I want you to think about your brain circulation. Am I overly stressed right now? Am I not moving enough? The other piece I'll put in there, for those of you that are seeing a chiropractor, we know that the chiropractic adjustment will improve cerebral spinal fluid to the brain. So many of you notice that you get a better night's sleep on the day you see your chiropractor. It's a beautiful way to get movement up into the brain. So think about the circulation of the brain. Second thing I want you to think about is inflammation of the brain. What is causing your brain to inflame? And there are a couple reasons. 1 is insulin. Too much insulin. Those of you here on my channel, I know you're fans of keto, so make sure you're applying keto and fasting principles to keep that insulin down. Second is you may be reacting to a food. So get off gluten, get off dairy, get off sugar. Get off harmful oils. These are typically foods that people are reacting to. So avoid the more inflammatory foods like the ones I just mentioned. Third thing for inflammation on the brain is you could have an open blood-brain barrier. And this happens when you have a leaky gut. So stay tuned, because I'm going to be doing more on this one. There's something called a GABA challenge, where if those of you that are taking a GABA supplement, it is helping for you, it is relaxing you, that's a sign that you have an open blood-brain barrier. So I will dive into that more on future videos. So stay tuned on that. And then the fourth thing that causes inflammation is heavy metals. So you've heard me talk, mold is the other one. You've heard me talk a lot about that on my channel here. So heavy metals we're getting in our air, our soils, our foods. It's in people who are remodeling their homes, and same thing with mold, anywhere you've had water damage. So that is the second thing to look at under the brain. You want to look at your circulation to the brain. You want to look at inflammation of the brain. So in circulation, you want to look at your stress and make sure you're moving, get a chiropractic adjustment. With inflammation, you want to make sure you're lowering insulin, that you're not reacting to your food. We want to make sure you don't have an open blood-brain barrier, and that you are working with a practitioner to detox metals or mold. Okay, second organ I want you to think about is the gut. So the reason the gut is so important is because of the leaky blood gut barrier that I just talked about. So make sure you don't have a leaky gut situation. I know a lot of you know you do. Our gut zoomer test will tell us exactly if you have a leaky gut or not. So if you want to dive into that more, just let us know. So make sure you don't have a leaky gut. You also want to make sure you have enough good bacteria in your gut, that you're feeding your good bacteria. So go back and watch the videos that I did on Ketobiotic. Go watch the videos that I've done on the plant diversity score. You want to make sure that you're getting plenty of plants in your daily life and that you're feeding those good bacteria. Polyphenol foods, fermented foods, prebiotic foods, those are the three categories of foods that are going to really feed your good bacteria. When you feed your good bacteria and you prevent leaky gut situations, your gut will produce the melatonin you need to sleep well. That's why the gut's so important. The other thing I want to add into melatonin production is if you are on your computer or on your phone at night before you go to bed, that blue light can often have an adverse effect on melatonin. It will tell your melatonin to shut off. So making sure you're not on your devices before you go to bed, or you're wearing some kind of blue blockers. Those of you that are fans of the Juve light can help your body produce more melatonin because it counteracts the effects of blue light. So that's under the gut, is your melatonin production. And the second thing I'll put under gut is fasting. Make sure you're doing some extended 24-hour fasts. Research out of MIT is showing that 24 hours of fasting will improve stem cell production in your intestinal walls. That's awesome. It'll help repair any pathogens that are in there. So if you're working on your leaky gut syndrome, you're feeding your good bacteria, and you're fasting, doing these 24-hour fasts on a regular basis, now you're really hitting the gut from a lot of different angles, and you're maximizing your melatonin production. Okay, last organ I want you to think about is more of a set of organs. It's your HPA axis. And this is your hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal feedback loop. For a lot of you, that loop is off, which is throwing your whole circadian rhythms off, which is throwing off your sleep cycles. So the number one thing I recommend on HPA axis is understand if you have what I call a cortisol mix-up, meaning that you're maybe starting off the day with too low of a cortisol production and you're getting a surge at night of cortisol and it's making it so that you can't fall asleep, or you're getting a surge at like 2 in the morning, and when your glucose goes down, your cortisol starts to spike. So the best way to know what your cortisol pattern is through the Dutch test. You can also tell just by symptoms. Do you have trouble falling asleep? Do you wake up at 2 in the morning? Do you have, are you exhausted in the morning? If that's you, you've got your cortisol is all mixed up. And there's a couple of recommendations I have for you, and that is make sure you're getting plenty of sunlight so your body knows when day is and it knows when night is. That's really important. And there's a supplement that I use in my clinic to help bring those cortisol levels down at night. I'll go through that in a moment. And then make sure at dinner you're eating enough good fat so that your glucose doesn't get too low, and so that when your glucose goes down, that's when your adrenals are going to create a cortisol surge at 2 in the morning. Okay? The other piece of the HPA axis, if your endocrine system is off, you know that you've got some challenges with the hypothalamus and pituitary, you want to look at mold, you want to look at heavy metals, what toxins might be in that part of the brain that is throwing your endocrine system off. So I'll throw that out there. And then the last thing on the HPA axis I want to mention is a lot of you guys are stuck in fight or flight. What I mean by that is your sympathetic dominant nervous system is so overworked and you don't have tools to bring that to raise the parasympathetic nervous system. A measurement for this is called HRV, and that's what I use my Oura Ring for. We do measure HRV in my office as well. It will give you a reading to tell you how well you are balancing your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. So some of you need to get better balance with those two nervous systems. Great way to balance it is meditation. So those of you that are meditators, we use brain tapping in my office, and we use chiropractic adjustments will immediately balance those two nervous systems. So that's the last thing on your HPA axis, your adrenal axis. Okay, let me recap those really quick, and then I'm going to go through supplements. So with your brain, you want to think about your circulation and inflammation that's happening in the brain. With the gut, you want to think about your melatonin production, and you want to make sure you're doing some 24-hour fasts, which with your HPA axis and your adrenals, you want to make sure that cortisol is not mixed up, you don't have toxins like heavy metals and mold in the brain, and you want to make sure you're not stuck in fight or flight. Okay? Those are 7 things. Like, this is why some of you are going to take number 1 and you'll sleep great, and some of you are going to need to go through all 7, which is why I created this checklist series. Last thing, I'm going to power through my favorite supplements to help with these different pieces that I just explained to you. So for nighttime, those of you that don't have good melatonin production, DREM is my favorite melatonin supplement. I also use a product called Seriphos that will help with bringing cortisol down. So if you're getting a lot of cortisol spikes at night, you're going to want to use Seriphos. If you don't have a good enough melatonin production, you want to use DREM. And those of you that are stuck in fight or flight and you need to relax your nervous system, this is where I use CBD oil. My favorite is Charlotte's Web. That's the brand that we prefer for CBD oil. And no THC, free of heavy metals, really a good product. Okay? So that's for that part. Those of you that have a leaky gut, this is the best product for fixing leaky guts. Most of us have some version of a leaky gut. Those of you that are looking for more ketones and balancing the brain, we're fans of Systemic. Just came out with extracellular ketones that will help with repair, bring that inflammation down. And those of you that know that you've got to work on balancing your insulin levels, Ketabo Shake. I combine these two for my insulin resistant patients. Okay? So there you go. That was a lot. I see you guys ask questions, and I want to make sure you're getting a system in which to think about this. So if you like these checklists, let me know. I'll do more of them. I've got one coming up on depression. If there's a condition you want me to do, let me know. And just start working the checklist. And you will see that sometimes it takes one piece to heal you. Sometimes it takes 10 things to do to heal you. But there's a lot of paths you can go with sleep. And I just gave you hopefully some new ways to look at this and a whole path that you can create for yourself. So as always, I hope that helps. Hey, Dr. Mindy here, and if you enjoyed this video, please share it out to the world. I'm trying to get really cutting-edge health information into people's hands. And if you want to see more videos like this, just subscribe to my channel and you'll get updates as to when I go live and new videos that I put out there. Every Thursday, by the way, I do a live video from here and answer your questions. So if there are questions you want me to answer, join me then and I'll make sure that I address them. Thanks. Have an awesome day.